Good evening, glad that you are watching your channel of choice on TV 47 News tonight. Plans are at an advanced stage for President-elect William Ruto's swearing-in. Head of Public Service Joseph Kinyua says the swearing-in will be conducted under the law between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance and Kenya Kwanza expected to battle it out in the race to control both houses of parliament.
The business to be transacted at this sitting shall be the swearing-in of the senators and the election of the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker of the Senate.
With intense lobbying going on for the Speaker's positions, the 4 dissenting IEBC commissioners embrace judgment upholding President-elect William Ruto's win.
It's up to them and they are conscious what they want to do going forward. But as a commission, we follow the law and we have not chased away anyone.
This with a show of intention to normalize relations with the commission's chair, Wafula Chebukati. Catherine Simaloi is our sign language interpreter. Good evening, I'm Abubakar Abdullahi. Welcome to the broadcast. Now, the swearing-in ceremony of President-elect William Ruto and Deputy President-elect Rigathi Gachagua on Tuesday next week will cost the taxpayer 200 million shillings. This is according to the Assumption of Office Committee. And as Mike Kagongo now reports, the committee, according to the law, is expected to publish a notice of the ceremony as well as date and venue in the Kenya Gazette. The venue, however, must be within Nairobi.
President-elect to come forward and receive
200 million shillings has been allocated to facilitate transfer of power from the outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta and the President-elect William Ruto. The money, which is managed by the Assumption of Office Committee that will oversee the swearing-in of the President-elect William Ruto and Deputy President-elect Rigathi Gachagua, was factored in the 2022-2023 budget.
Would like to inform the nation that the swearing-in ceremony and inauguration of the new administration will be held in fidelity with Article 141 of the Constitution, being the first Tuesday following yesterday's decision by the Supreme Court upholding the declaration of the EIBC.
Article 141 of the Constitution states that the swearing-in of the President-elect shall be in public before the Chief Justice or in the absence of the Chief Justice, the Deputy Chief Justice. He or she will be sworn in on the first Tuesday, following the 14th day after the date of the declaration of the results of the presidential election, if no petition has been filed under Article 140, or the 7th day following the date on which the court renders the decision declaring the election to be valid, if any petition had been filed under Article 140.
The process of the swearing-in event and the inauguration ceremony are elaborately set out under both the Constitution and the statute law. The President-elect shall take the oath of office as administered by the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary before Her Ladyship, the Chief Justice.
During the ceremony, the President-elect swears to discharge his or her responsibilities without fear of favor in respect to the Constitution. Planning for Ruto and Gachagua's swearing-in started immediately after Kenyans went to the polls.
The process of handing over is in progress through the Assumption of Office Committee, which actually has already begun its work as of August 10th, 2022.
According to the law, the committee is expected to publish a notice of the ceremony, date and venue in the Kenya Gazette. The venue must be within Nairobi, and government officers have already inspected the Moi Sports Center, Kasarani, for the ceremony.
I think the preparations have begun in earnest. We are a little behind because this should have been ongoing even as the Supreme Court case was going on, but there was a bit of a delay. But today we began. The entire opposition team did meet today at Office of the President Harambee House, and we've split ourselves into various teams.
The committee, chaired by Head of Public Service Joseph Kenywa, comprises of Attorney General Paul Kihara Kariuki, Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i, Interior Principal Secretary Karanja Kibicho, Treasury Principal Secretary Julius Muia, and Foreign Affairs Principal Secretary Macharia Kamau, Broadcasting and Telecommunications Principal Secretary Esther Koimet, and Heritage Principal Secretary Josfita Mukobe. Ruto nominated outgoing Speaker of the National Assembly Justine Muturi, UDA Secretary General Veronica Maina, and Uasin Gishu County Woman Representative Gladys Sholei to join the committee. The committee's roles include security of the president-elect and his deputy and ensuring seamless transfer of power from the outgoing to the incoming president. Preparing the instruments of power to be handed and the manpower, ensuring seamless transfer of power from the outgoing to the incoming president, putting in place required measures to ensure smooth transition. Registrar of the Judiciary Anne Amadi will swear in the new president in the presence of Chief Justice Martha Karambu Kome or her deputy Philomena Mbete Mwilu in the absence of the Chief Justice. The swearing in must take place before 2 p.m. at a public venue. After signing the swearing-in certificate, Ruto will be handed instruments of power by Uhuru Kenyatta. His deputy will be sworn soon after. The new president will then address the nation. Mike, GOtv 47, Nairobi.
Now, as a section of Kenyans continue to celebrate William Ruto's win after the Supreme Court upheld his win, leaders across the world have congratulated Ruto, further commending Kenya for conducting a peaceful campaign and subsequent election. They have pledged to work with the new Kenyan government and administration to strengthen relationships between their countries and the Kenyan government. Chepkemoi has the details.
Different organizations and presidents from different states have joined Kenya in celebrating President-elect William Ruto's win.
This is a unanimous decision of the courts, and we make the following orders. We declare the election of the first respondent as president-elect to be varied under Article 143 of the Constitution.
Embassies and high commissions in Kenya have issued a joint statement congratulating President-elect William Ruto after the Supreme Court upheld his August 9th victory. While celebrating Ruto, the envoys have acknowledged the contribution of Raila Odinga to Kenya's democratic evolution. They have commended Kenya for a peaceful campaign period, telling transparency and formal dispute mechanisms. African Union Commission's chairperson Moussa Faki has lauded Raila Odinga for respecting the Supreme Court's ruling while congratulating William Ruto. Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu Hassan has also sent a congratulatory message to William Ruto, saying that she is ready to work with him in strengthening the relationship of the two nations. President Evariste Ndayishimiye has reiterated Ruto's win, terming his leadership as a cornerstone for reinforcement of historic relations. In a phone call, Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni, while congratulating the president-elect, said he is looking forward to strengthening strategic partnership in advancing the East African Community EAC agenda. The U.S. Secretary General Anthony Blinken says he is looking forward to strengthening the long-standing relation with the new government. Chepkemoi, TV 47, Nairobi.
Well, tonight, President-elect William Ruto's victory has been hailed as historic for a first-timer who bet the odds to ascend to the country's presidency. Ruto, who styled himself as a hustler, a Kenyan slang for a commoner, during his campaigns, overcame political obstacles, beating powerful political families. But what does his win mean to his hustler base, the economy, and Kenya's foreign policy? Our senior political affairs reporter Apollo Kamau examines.
The confirmation of President-elect William Ruto by the country's Supreme Court has not only upset the country's power matrix, dictated by the Kenyatta, Moi and Odinga families, but will probably inspire hope to millions of his followers by showing them that anything is possible.
They have not only voted for me, but they opened doors and gates for their own children in every village, in every neighborhood, knowing very well that their children as well can become leaders.
We have for once a president who has worked his way up. One thing is that William Ruto has never lost an election.
A first-timer who beat the odds to win his first presidential contest. All eyes are on the president-elect, who outsmarted his opponents, among them outgoing President.
Well, we apologize for that. Apollo Kamau will be working on that story and we will be revisiting a little bit later in this broadcast. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta will on Tuesday hand over instruments of power to President-elect William Ruto, despite the former coming out to campaign against his deputy of almost 10 years. In a bid to block him from succeeding him as the next president, Moige William paints us a picture of an uncomfortable relationship between the two to the tail end of their 2 terms.
The biggest political statement made leading to and after the recently concluded general election is the complete shift from the camaraderie that both President Uhuru Kenyatta and his principal assistant Deputy President William Ruto publicly displayed during their first term in office. Monday's judgment by a 7-judge bench of the Supreme Court confirming that indeed the shift was a real one, with President Kenyatta failing in the management of his own succession. The dust may have settled, but many observers are still processing the fallout between the once close allies who formed a formidable political force before the March 2013 general election, as they faced crimes against humanity cases at the International Criminal Court. The shift has also moved from how the two relate politically to just how they communicate, with outgoing President Uhuru tellingly choosing to address the nation via recorded statement as opposed to a live televised address, and failing to acknowledge President-elect William Ruto's win or even congratulating him despite earlier congratulating elected leaders in the recently concluded general polls. These coming hours after Ruto claimed that he had not spoken to his boss for months.
The process of handing over is in progress through the Assumption of Office Committee.
The president-elect, however, playing down the issue of the tension between them.
But shortly I will be putting a call to him so that we can have a conversation on the process of transition.
Observers opine that all went south for the two after the 2017 general election, following the newfound political truce between President Kenyatta and Azimio leader Raila Odinga, which culminated to the famous March 9, 2018 handshake. What later followed was a simmering tension between the former political friends, with Ruto complaining of being sidelined by his boss.
Now we have a president-elect. The easiest thing for him to do, and the most honorable thing for him to do, was to accept that the president-elect is now William Ruto, to congratulate him, to wish him well, to show him around State House.
And in 2020, President Kenyatta will officially break ranks with Ruto, with the latter going ahead to form the United Democratic Alliance, a party that propelled him to clinch the top seat and become the 5th president in an election whose final results and processes were contested by 7 petitioners, among them Raila Odinga.
The president said he would rather work for his legacy in the second term, and he got into a handshake. And the president-elect then got into trying to tell the people that they needed to go back to their dreams of the Big Four.
And Ruto is now president because Kenyans have also spoken, and we believe that is how things should go. Kenya belongs to all of us, and it is in our interest to see that transition is smooth.
With all said and done, transition of power is expected between President Uhuru Kenyatta and President-elect William Ruto, who is set to serve the nation as the 5th president. Moige William, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta has gazetted the first sitting of the newly elected members of Parliament for September 8th at the Parliament buildings. The sitting will take place from 9 a.m. where all the 290 members of National Assembly elected and 47 senators will be sworn in. Flora Limuki reports.
30 days after the election, the outgoing president is expected to gazette the notice of the date for the first sitting of the new House. In respect to this, outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta has gazetted a notice dated Tuesday, September 5th, that the 290 members of Parliament and 47 senators will take their oath of office on Thursday during the first sitting. In the notice, Uhuru states that, and I quote, "In exercise of the powers conferred by Article 126(2) of the Constitution of Kenya, I, Uhuru Kenyatta, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Kenya Defence Forces, appoint that the first sitting of the Senate shall be held at the main Parliament buildings in the Senate Chamber, Nairobi, on the 8th September 2022 at 9 a.m. During the first sitting of the House, the Clerk of the National Assembly and Senate shall administer the oath of affirmation of office to members-elect present in accordance with Article 74 of the Constitution. Article 74 of the Constitution states that before assuming state office, acting in a state office, or performing any functions of a state office, a person shall take and subscribe the oath or affirmation of office in the manner and form prescribed by the third schedule or under the Act of Parliament.
We will be having pre-swearing-in sessions, which we will hold within the precincts of Parliament, within the main Parliament buildings in Nairobi, on Wednesday, the 7th of September, starting from 9 o'clock and running throughout the day.
Standing Order 3 of the National Assembly Standing Orders states that, and I quote, "On the first sitting of a new House pursuant to the President's notification under Article 126(2) of the Constitution, the clerk shall read the notification of the President as published in the Gazette, lay a list of names of persons elected as members on the table of the House, administer the oath or affirmation of office provided for the third schedule to the Constitution to all members present in the House." The gazettement is critical to the business of the House since it's at the first sitting that senators and members of Parliament elect are sworn in. This is the 13th Parliament. Flora Limuki, TV47.
Moving on, a day after the Apex Court's judgment that upheld President-elect William Ruto's win, the 4 dissenting commissioners who played a central role in the just settled presidential petition have cleared the air, saying that they respect the decision of the judges of the Supreme Court. The 4 commissioners, led by Vice Chair Juliana Cherera, through a press release to the media, also welcomed the chairperson Wafula Chebukati's statement that called on the 4 to abide by the rule of law in executing their mandate.
Even as the country starts to slowly get back to normalcy after a grueling political season, the season might still be on at the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission IEBC's boardroom. With the 4 dissenting commissioners now coming out to clear the air on their previous move that was at the center of the just settled presidential petition at the Supreme Court of Kenya. On Monday, the court rubbished the evidence provided by the 4 commissioners that alleged that the commission's chair, Wafula Chebukati, didn't involve the 4 in the verification process of the presidential results. A ruling within the final judgment that vindicated the commission's chairman, Wafula Chebukati.
The current dysfunctionality at the commission impugns the state of its corporate governance, but does not affect the conduct of the 2022 election.
Led by the IEBC Vice Chair Juliana Cherera, the four have welcomed the verdict of the court which upheld William Ruto's win. In a press release by the four commissioners, Vice Chairperson Juliana Cherera and Commissioners Irene Masit, Francis Wanderi and Justus Nyangaya, they thanked the Apex Court judges on the unanimous decision that they reached at. Further, the four commissioners welcomed the commission's chairperson Wafula Chebukati's statement issued to the media, which called on them to follow the rule of law in executing their mandate as IEBC commissioners. Joash Onsare, TV47, Nairobi.
Let's get back to Apollo Kamau's earlier story, and tonight President-elect William Ruto's election victory has been hailed as historic for a first-timer who bet the odds to ascend to the country's presidency. Ruto, who styled himself as a hustler, a Kenyan slang for a commoner during his campaigns, overcame political obstacles, beating political powerful families. But what does his win mean for his hustler support base, the economy, and Kenya's foreign policy? Our senior political affairs reporter Apollo Kamau examines that tonight.
The confirmation of President-elect William Ruto by the country's Supreme Court has not only upset the country's power matrix, dictated by the Kenyatta, Moi and Odinga families, but will probably inspire hope to millions of his followers by showing them that anything is possible.
They have not only voted for me, but they have opened doors and gates for their own children in every village, in every neighborhood, knowing very well that their children as well can become leaders.
We have for once a president who has worked his way up. One thing is that William Ruto has never lost an election.
A first-timer who beat the odds to win his first presidential contest. All eyes are on the president-elect, who outsmarted his opponents, among them outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta, who, according to observers, mobilized state machinery to frustrate his presidential bid, ending in ugly public spats.
Ruto says he will not revenge, and Gachagua says, but if you look at their language, body language and the words coming from them, you see people who are still bitter. If you are not going to do things to people, you don't even say it. You just put that behind you and move on. But if you say, I will not do this, and I look at your language, although there is solace in the knowledge that, so just what can you do?
Ruto has assured his opponents, including President Uhuru Kenyatta, that he will seek no revenge amid questions on the acrimonious end of the UhuRuto era during the duo's second term in office.
We are not going to run this country by looking at the rear view mirror. We want to focus ahead. Those who tormented us will carry that shame with them. That shame that they already have is enough. When President Uhuru Kenyatta exercised his democratic right to support Raila Odinga, we had no problem at all with that. But we did not know that he would use state power to try and intimidate and force people to support Raila Odinga.
This is on the backdrop of a seismic shift of political allegiances, with some would-be opposition politicians trooping to Ruto's camp, raising fears of a moribund opposition. Ruto's victory will be put to test by millions of his supporters who believed in his hustler dream through a bottom-up economic model and who expect him to address the expanding public debt, high inflation, and youth unemployment. During the August 9 election campaigns, Ruto took an antagonistic stance towards Beijing, threatening to deport Chinese nationals and cutting off Kenya ties with China over the rising debt that Kenyatta used to finance mega projects.
I suspect the West is supporting Ruto and supported him in this campaign so that they may push China out of Kenya and ultimately out of Africa, and so that China may have less impact. For that reason, the West, which I suspect has been supporting Ruto in this election, they could bail him out.
Apul Kamau, TV47.
Now, a day after the Supreme Court upheld the general election presidential results, religious leaders from various parts of the country have lauded the Supreme Court for what they said was managing a successful election. They are now calling upon Kenyans to maintain peace during the transition period.
As some Kenyans continue to celebrate the Supreme Court ruling for upholding the win of William Ruto as the president-elect, the church has come out to laud the judgment while urging all Kenyans to accept the Supreme Court ruling for the interest of peace and economic prosperity in the nation.
Sasa vile mahakama imepitisha ya kwamba His Excellency Deputy President sasa au aapishwe, tunataka kutoa mwito kwa Wakenya wote ya kwamba tushikilie amani.
Speaking in his office, Bishop John Ole Mpurukoyi of PAG Church in Narok County has further called on the President-elect William Ruto to focus on uniting Kenyans, especially those that voted for him and those that didn't.
Na wote sasa ni watu wako. Kwa hivyo tunakuomba usibebe mtu yoyote, hata tunajua kuna wale wamesumuza mambo mabaya, kuna wale wamesema hutakuwa, kuna wale wamesema hutafaulu, na sasa kasi tunaomba ya kwamba, mimi naomba ya kwamba wewe msamee kila mtu, kwa sababu watu wote ni watu wako, haijalishi ni dini, haijalishi ni kabila gani.
Elsewhere in Kiambaa constituency in Kiambu County, religious leaders have expressed their confidence towards the President-elect William Ruto in fulfilling and working upon his manifesto that he promised to Kenyans during his campaign trails.
We made a memorandum with our President William Ruto, and I'm assuring you, William Ruto does not lie. He is not a conman. He does not practice deceit. He is going to fulfill all what he promised.
They have at the same time prevailed upon Kenyans to pray for the new team of leadership as it prepares to execute their promises, particularly during these harsh economic times.
Like we all know, the economy is down. There are so many things which were working against our nation. They really have a challenge. I know they have given themselves to fulfill their promise, but I also pray that we also pray for them, pray for divine enablement. They have acknowledged that their victory was God's doing, so that even in executing the promise, maybe by the help of the Holy Spirit and God, together with their commitment to the same.
Paul Munio, TV47.
Thank you, Paul, for that report. Elsewhere, Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha says he is ready to continue serving the country in the same docket if given a chance by the incoming government. Magoha was speaking from Karen C Secondary School in Nairobi, where he had gone to check the progress of the construction of CBC classrooms.
As normal activities in a majority of government offices in the country slowed down owing to the general election, one man was always out in the field working. And that is Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha. The education boss was traversing the country, inspecting the progress of construction of CBC classrooms. And now he says he is ready to work with the incoming government if given a chance to continue serving the country in the education docket.
I am not looking for a job. That's one. You can take that to the bank. So nobody should mistake me that I'm completing this work in order to be seen that I want another job. But if in his wisdom the president-elect thought that I could even be half worthy to be considered, we would have a conversation. We would have a conversation with him, because I have now connected with the children, the poor children. And if we are thinking in the same direction and he gives me the support that I require, which would mean that I do things the way he wants and not any other person, then you may be, if it is God's will, I will say yes. But otherwise, it is not even in my mind. I believe so strongly the cross that I've had in my chest for 40 years protects me, and whatever God wants me to do, the time will come. And if it doesn't happen, so be it. It's not an issue. There are people, by the way, I would want to ask you, don't you know that there are so many people falling all over the place for those jobs right now? There are so many of them. I shall not be one of them. After the new president is sworn in on the 13th, it will now depend on how quickly he forms his cabinet. Before that cabinet is formed, if there is 1% left, you can be very sure that you sincerely will move around and complete it. That is what we were taught to do when we were at Stareboy Center.
Magoha says most of the counties are close to completing the construction of CBC classrooms, which should be ready for use as of next year when the pioneer class joins junior secondary school.
Globally, we have about 4% to go, which means that we have to work seamlessly until Saturday this week. We should be able to deliver what is required.
Magoha says the selection of the junior secondary schools by learners is on course and that they might not need to extend the duration of school selection. Sharon Baranga, TV 47.
Thank you, our senior education affairs reporter Sharon Baranga, for that. You're watching Kenya's fastest growing television. Time for us to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be back with more news after this break.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories.
At Streisand School of Medical Health Science and Technology, we prepare the change makers of tomorrow by training them in theater technology, medical engineering, science laboratory and health records, applied biology, environmental health science, nutrition and dietetics, ICT, counseling psychology, and many more. Enroll with us today and take a certificate or diploma course. Visit our campuses in Juja, Nairobi West, Kisumu, and Homa Bay and get your career going.
Usiyakubalie maumivu ya misuli kukatiza ratiba yako. Kaluma Pain Balm ni dawa ya kusugua iliyotengenezwa kutoka kwa miche maalum ili kutuliza maumivu ya misuli. Kaluma Pain Balm. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
Do you aspire to acquire knowledge and skills relevant to the job market and entrepreneurship? Join us at KIPS Technical College, one of the largest NEC examination centers in Kenya and the premier tertiary institution established and mandated to operate by TVET Authority. We lead when it comes to offering high-quality technical and professional training and bringing out the best in our students. Our ultra-modern learning facilities, highly qualified and experienced lecturers, attachment liaison office, counseling office make us the preferred choice. Limited HELB loans are available to students. Our intake is ongoing for full-time, evening and online classes. Join us today and experience the KIPS difference. KIPS Technical College, your sure path to success.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Let's get to more news. And over 40 Kenyans have expressed interest in the Speaker's position in the 13th Parliament ahead of the first sitting on Thursday when lawmakers will vote for the Speaker. Among those who have picked application papers for the third-in-command position are Bungoma Senator Moses Wetangula, who is fronted by Kenya Kwanza for the Speaker of the National Assembly, and Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, who is fronted by Azimio One Kenya Coalition Party. And as Elizabeth Mutuku now reports, a section of Kenya Kwanza members have expressed dissatisfaction in Wetangula's candidature.
Political divides have less than 48 hours to lobby for their preferred candidates for the Speaker's position in the National Assembly and Senate in the 13th Parliament, which commences on Thursday. However, a battle of numbers is expected on Thursday between Azimio la Umoja and Kenya Kwanza in their first sitting. Azimio One Kenya having fronted Wiper boss Kalonzo Musyoka for the Speaker of National Assembly ahead of tomorrow's parliamentary group meeting, which is expected to stamp authority and commencement of intense whipping and lobbying. Kenya Kwanza has fronted Bungoma Senator Moses Wetangula for the Speaker's space in the National Assembly, though some members from the coalition have expressed their reservations on his candidature, and this is likely to tilt the question should they vote otherwise in a secret ballot exercise. Azimio has 168 members, while Kenya Kwanza has 158 members as per political parties list. However, with friendly parties and MPs voted independent candidates shifting to the Ruto-led coalition, the outfit might control the House. Grand Dream Party has one member of parliament, while National Agenda Party has one, just like the Ordinary People Empowerment Union. There are 12 members of the House elected on an independent ticket, most of whom have already moved to Kenya Kwanza. Kanus William Kamketa has also shifted loyalty, while former Governor Emerson Kingi's party PAR has 4 members, while Maendeleo Chapchap has 2 members of parliament. The two parties already are part of Kenya Kwanza.
And we want to have a Speaker of the National Assembly who understands both our legislative and economic agenda of the Kenya government. And because Wetangula was at the center of drafting the economic agenda of this country when we were moving around this country, we believe that he is the best person to be the Speaker of the National Assembly. And apart from engaging in extensive lobbying across the political divide, you know, we are also a team that believes in prayers. We are a team that believes that God is the only person who puts someone in leadership position.
The battle in the Senate Speaker's position is not any different on matters numbers, with Kenya Kwanza fronting former Kilifi Governor Emerson Kingi, while Azimio is backing former National Assembly Speaker Kenneth Marende, who says is up to the task from experience on the job. Senate Speaker's post has attracted 18 Kenyans, who include Kiambu Senator Karugo Athangwa, former nominated Senator Isaac Mwaura, among others.
I'm an interesting candidate to both sides, so I can see that I will eat into the other side as well. I'm cross-cutting. I'm a Kenyan. A lot of Kenyans are happy with the way I do things. I think they like my philosophy of life. They like my approach to ideology. So it looks fine.
The National Assembly Speaker's position has attracted more than 40 Kenyans who have already picked papers before the deadline. Some of them include Kevin Mbate and William Washira, who have missed the requisite 20 signatures to second their candidature on the job as per constitution.
Masomo niko nayo kwa sababu one qualification ambao nimeona ukuwe umequalify kwa ukuwe na zile qualification kama mbunge. Na tayari nilikuwa nimesimama kiti cha ubunge kule Gilgil. Kitu cha pili ni ujue studying orders za bunge venye zinaendeleshwa na venye zinatumika katika bunge. Kitu ya tatu ujue katiba ya Kenya.
This epic battle is expected on Thursday when members of National Assembly and Senate will be picking their speakers for the 13th Parliament. Elizabeth Mutuko, TV 47 Parliament Buildings, Nairobi.
Now, a day after Chief Justice Martha Koome gave her verdict and that of the Supreme Court, which upheld the presidential candidature and win of Deputy President, now President-elect William Ruto, Women from Africa Women Leadership Network, Kenya chapter led by Dr. Jennifer Rira, have congratulated the President-elect and urged him to incorporate people with disabilities in his government, as they have been left out for many years by the leadership of Kenya. Speaking in Nairobi, they have congratulated the President-elect and promised to work hand in hand in accomplishing his mission and manifesto, as he promised to Kenyans.
You're welcome. Okay. Take this early opportunity
to congratulate His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto, together with his deputy, His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, upon the election as the 5th President and the Vice President of Republic of Kenya. Is the voice of the Kenyan people who spoke on Tuesday the 9th August 2022 through their ballots and endorsed by the Supreme Court decision of Monday 5th September 2022.
Na sauti ya wamama walemavu, tunasema tunashukuru rais na tunamuomba kwa maana wana kipengee cha walemavu katika manifesto ya Kenya Kwanza. Tafadhali tujali maslahi ya walemavu.
Now, 24-year-old Diana Chepkemoi, who was reported to have allegedly been detained by her employer in Saudi Arabia, arrived back home on Tuesday afternoon, where she was received by her family, friends, and a section of politicians. Elizabeth Atieno now reports.
Tuesday afternoon at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, emotions ran high as 24-year-old Diana Chepkemoi arrived in the country after 1.5 years away in Saudi Arabia. While at the JKIA arrival terminal, Chepkemoi enjoyed a warm embrace from her mother, Clara Chepkemoi, who expressed how happy she was to see her daughter alive.
I'm so grateful at this moment that my daughter Diana is back. I'm so grateful this afternoon that Diana is back. Yeah. I'm so grateful. I have extra, I can't explain my happiness with so much.
A crowd was spotted at the site, with everyone trying to get a glimpse of a lady who has dominated the social media world for the past few days. Chepkemoi revealed intricate details of her troubles during her emotional arrival from the Gulf country, saying her woes began the first day she arrived at her employer's home.
I left Kenya to go to Saudi Arabia just with the hope I'll get maybe a better life afterwards. But mine is just to say, if I can just be honest, mine was just a tip of the iceberg. Watu wanateseka huko. People are suffering there. My friends are suffering there. It's just that mine, nilipata that voice, nilipata support venye niliongea. But people are suffering there, and I'm just pleading with the government, just please do something. People there are mentally tortured, psychologically tortured, and it's not fair.
A teary-eyed Chepkemoi noted that she had left hundreds of Kenyans in a sad state in the Gulf country, urging the government to look into their plea.
It's a shame being told there's nothing you can do, there's nothing your government can do. I have power against your government. It's a shame. So I'm just pleading with the government, just please do something.
Kenyans got wind of Chepkemoi's troubles after her photo surfaced online for the better part of last week. Her once glowing eyes, full cheeks, and confident pose radiating warmth had been replaced by a shrunken version of gaunt eyes, hollow cheeks, unkempt hair, and visible shoulder blade, signaling a spree of suffering in Saudi Arabia. The disheartening photos caused an uproar among Kenyans on social media, who called for her immediate return to the country.
Diana is here. She's arrived safe and sound, though she's looking weak and tired. But we thank God. And I want also to thank the people who are concerned for her rescue. I know it has not been very easy. This is a reflection of the many others who are not here, the many others who are in the Middle East and many other countries of the same.
On Sunday, the 4th of September, the Saudi Arabia embassy in Nairobi dismissed reports that Chepkemoi was being mistreated in the Gulf state, further stating that she was suffering from a normal health condition. However, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs also delivered a statement on that very day where they assured Kenyans that the issue was taken up by Saudi Arabia ambassador and that she was in safe hands. On Monday, the 5th of September, Saudi Arabia Embassy issued another statement stating that Chepkemoi was picked from her employer's house by an ambulance and rushed to Shamesi Hospital for a checkup and was later discharged. Chepkemoi went to Saudi Arabia to work as a house manager in May 2020 after failing to raise school fees for her studies at Meru University, where she was pursuing food science and management before she deferred her studies. Chepkemoi traveled to seek greener pastures but fell into the hands of a dubious travel agent who handed her over to an alleged cruel employer. Today, she came back home to the comfort of her mother's embrace and on the road to recovery. Elizabeth Atieno, TV 47.
Elsewhere, the port of Lamu, which has been operational since May last year following the operationalization of the first berth, is now set to receive a tugboat to boost its efficiency. The move is set to equip the facility to maximize its operational capabilities. Speaking in Mombasa after receiving the new tugboat, Kenya Ports Authority General Joseph Kibwana has said that the new equipment will contribute to the efficiency and productivity of the facility.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. It is our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent, I get to know the heaviness she's carrying.
Disability comes at different stages of life.
How well do you know what's happening around you? Morning Cafe with heated political debates. Baraza la Siasa.
Hiyo kitu azungumzie, angalie hali ya maisha ya watu.
Informative health discussions. Business, farming. Tasty Wednesday, Fitness Thursday, and Feel Good Friday with amazing DJs, celebs,
waimbaji, kuna comedians, alafu kuna wajinga.
and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. The next set of millionaires are farmers, as we know agriculture has been and still is the backbone of our economy. As we traverse the different counties to meet different farmers, we ensure to get the story of how they started farming and even how they continue to penetrate the market and overcome the challenges.
Hapa, the reason why nilieka goose na si ducks. Goose, they are very easy to maintain.
A lot of farmers keep on calling, inquiring whether you're supposed
TV
to...
47, the home of untold stories.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Let's get to the world of sports now. Dennis Otieno is with me in studio. Dennis, good evening. On a night, I suppose you are still jubilant of Manchester United's win against Arsenal.
Absolutely, and even more so over the fact that Chelsea is currently losing its match in the UEFA Champions League. Of course, a lot of footballing conversations that we're going to talk about in the sports news tonight. Also, we will be telling you about the last respects paid to the fallen cyclist, that is Sule Kangangi, as well as the performance of Angela Okutoyi in the US Open tennis competition. But to start us off, let's start off with the last respects paid to the fallen cyclist, that is Sule Kangangi, who passed away earlier last week in America after being involved in an accident while taking part in the Vermont cycling race. Now, he was paid the last respects with earlier today at the Lee Funeral Home in Nairobi. Cycling enthusiasts, cycling stakeholders, as well as fans gathered at the funeral home to condole with the family of the fallen cyclist before the body was transported from the Lee Funeral Home to the Nyayo National Stadium, where a memorial service was held. Cyclists lined up across the roads leading to the Nyayo National Stadium while raising the front wheels of their bicycles as a way of saluting the late Kangangi, while they termed him as a humane athlete full of love to others. The body of Kangangi was transported from the Nyayo National Stadium to his home in Eldoret, where he is expected to be buried.
Races for us, he cycled with us, he mentored some of us, most of us. That's why we are here today to remember him and give him that last salute as cyclists.
Sulaiman was a very humble person who touched many lives in very many ways, and he had a great impact. He has had an impact on each and everyone you see here. In person, I really appreciate him for mentoring my son. My son is one of the young people that he's been mentoring in cycling, and he had a great impact on him as well. So we'll always remember him for his humility, his friendship, and his great skill.
Well, may his soul rest in eternal peace. But moving on, Kenya's tennis sensation Angela Okutoyi suffered a round of 32 exit in the US Open Junior Championship after falling to a 2-1 sets defeat at the hands of Australian Tyler Preston. Okutoyi struggled to keep up with Tyler's pace as she lost the first set before making a comeback to win the second. However, Preston proved to be too strong for Okutoyi as she dominated the third set to win the match with scores of 6-2, 6-7 and 6-1. After being bundled out of the singles category, Okutoyi will now take part in the doubles category of the competition, where she will partner with Netherlands international Rose Marie Nijkamp, with whom won the Wimbledon doubles title earlier this year. The national men's cricket team has now shifted its focus to the Africa Cricket Association ACA T20 Cup final slated to take shape from 15th to 21st September this year in Johannesburg, South Africa. Kenya has been drawn in Group B against Nigeria, Malawi and Cameroon, while Uganda, Botswana, Ghana and Mozambique have been drawn in Pool A. Kenya will be looking to win as many matches as they can in the competition as they draw much motivation from the just concluded T20 series against Nepal that saw them rise 2 places up in the International Cricket Council ICC rankings. The 14-man squad is expected to depart the country for South Africa on Thursday next week. However, the quartet of Collins Obuya, Sachin Budhia, Eugene Ochieng and Alex Obandia will not travel due to injuries they picked up. Gaming firm SportPesa has continued to support football in the country by by hosting the Wazee Pamoja League as the country awaits the resumption of the FKF Premier League slated to begin on the 24th of September this year. The Wazee Pamoja League, which is a social football league comprising of teams whose players were former professional footballers in the Kenya Premier League and Harambee Stars teams, has attracted more teams with Githurai's Wazee Hatari and Wazazi FC as well as Scarlet FC joining the league in the current season. The sponsor of the league visited the Pan Pierre Stadium where Wazee Hatari and Wazazi FC were playing against each other and distributed some football kits under its grassroots project, Kits for Africa. Speaking during the event, Wazee Pamoja League Chairman Bernard Miruka stated that the 2-year sponsorship deal by SportPesa has helped the league grow.
Ili kuja kuwatunuku ama kuwapatia jezi za mpira.